Welcome to the next video in my 2.5D platformer Unity tutorial series. We've got our little red orb that was moving back and forth that our character will collide with, and that's not so great because then they die. Now that we've got our scripts all set up on this object, whenever we duplicate that object, all of the values will remain the same. However, if we change the values in one object, then they won't get updated in the other, and that can be quite messy. Let's say we want lots of different versions of this orb all around our level that are all behaving the same way. First, I'm going to drag our sphere into our assets folder, and that creates a new prefab of the sphere. Think of this as a blueprint for creating multiple different versions of the same prefab. I can then drag the prefab back into the scene, and now I have an instance of that sphere. So they're all in the same place at the moment, so that's confusing, but let's move them out. Now we've got these different spheres in different places, but if I was to make a change to the prefab, it would then get updated to all the spheres. Let's say, for example, I double click on the prefab and open it up, and I change the color of it. I'm going to change it to this green color. Now in the scene, you'll see that all of the orbs have changed to be the same color because they are all instances of the same prefab. But actually, I don't think I wanted them to be green. I think I'd much prefer the red. Let's change it back. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is add a rudimentary system for collecting things, let's say. So this time we're going to have collision, but instead of it being bad, we want it to be good. And then we also want to keep track of what we're collecting with some sort of UI HUD element. So a UI is a user interface, and the HUD is the heads-up display. These are maybe terms you've heard of before, or maybe not. Basically, we're going to try and create a little icon that appears on your screen somewhere that counts how many of these little collectibles you've got. Let's go ahead and right-click in our hierarchy and go to UI and create a new canvas. The canvas is sort of very strange in Unity. It sits almost outside in this massive view outside the actual world space, and it's overlaid on top of your scene and your camera. Let's go ahead and right click on our camera. To show that, I'm going to go to UI and create a new text. Now you can see that the text, wherever it is on this canvas, we will be able to see it in our screen. There's lots and lots of fun UI stuff that I'll cover later, but for now, we're just going to position this in the top left-hand corner of our screen. We're going to change the value of this text to something like coins 0. So we don't have any coins at the moment. Sad times, but we'll get some. Make sure that you're looking at your canvas from the right side. One of the fun things that can happen is that you end up looking at your canvas from the opposite side in the scene view, and then you get really confused because everything's mirrored. How can we collect coins? Well, we're going to have to create the new object. So let's go ahead and create let's do another sphere. This time it will be, we'll make a new material for it. This will be a nice sphere. You can replace these objects in the prototype stage with fancy assets like a coin asset. For now, we're just going to call this coin, and this will be the bright yellow color or something suitably awful. Let's click on our object and set the material. There we go. Let's actually scale down the y-axis, so we've got this weird flat looking thing, and then rotate it towards the player. There we go. It's vaguely like a coin. You know, we can tweak that to our heart's content, but for now we're going to consider just the implementation of our code. So just like our death script, we're going to want to add a coin script, which will activate whenever the player enters it. One of the things I do all the time is copy code. In this case, we've got our onTriggerEnter method, and I'm just going to copy this code and put it inside our coin. It's just very important that you make sure that whenever you're copying code between classes, you don't rename your class by mistake to the class of the other source of code. And here, it doesn't know what a player is because we haven't defined that variable like we did in Death Collider. Let's go ahead and copy our variable that we declared as well. Now it knows what player is because we've got the variable up here. But we don't want to destroy the player, do we? No, we want to increase the coin value. The problem is if we have a coin value here, like for example, public int coins collected. Well, we can't have that be in our coin method, or sorry, our coin class, because there's lots of different coins and they all can't keep track of the coins themselves. What we want to do is instead keep track of the coins from a central location. In this case, we're going to get rid of this variable and put it instead in our player. Well, in our player movement. So we're keeping track of how many coins we've collected in just the one place, our player movement. We should probably rename this to like just player script instead of player movement because now we're collecting coins as well. But whatever. Prototype. Instead of our game object player, we were going to want to interact with this script just like we did with our ground movement. So instead of a game object, we're going to go ahead and make this variable a player movement class variable. That way, whenever we enter the coin, we can go to player dot, and we can use this dot operator to affect something in the player class variable. In this case, we're going to go affect our coins collected. Oops. Coins collected, and we're going to increase that value by 1. And again, we're using our little plus equals symbol to increment something. This is the same as doing equals the variable itself plus 1. It's a relative change. But we don't just want to do that. We also want to destroy the coin, because otherwise you'll just keep collecting the coin every time you go into it over and over again. So I'm going to do destroy, but in this time, instead of destroying the player, we're going to destroy the coin, which is the game object that this this class is, the script is attached to, and we can access that by going game object. So we're accessing the game object of the script that it's attached to, just like the way we access the transform component by simply typing in transform. We have to make sure that we don't destroy the object before we increment the coins. We have to do it in that order. So let's see what happens. Uh-oh, we've got a compile error. What did we make a mistake in? Oh my goodness, let's see. Well, with so many errors, I'm going to go ahead and go up to the very top, just in case this is the one causing all the other problems. Double click on it, and here we've opened it up in Visual Studio. I can build the script. I wonder if we actually have any variables, or maybe those are old variables, because I can see down here where it says build 1 succeeded. Let's try and run the game and see if there are errors. Sometimes if you do forget to clear the errors, it seems like you've got a lot of errors, but really you don't. They're all old. All right, and then we jump into the coin. Uh-oh, nothing's happening. We're actually colliding with the coin. We don't want that. I've forgotten to do something. Maybe you've worked it out already. I've forgotten to click is trigger on our sphere collider, which means it's acting as a normal physics object. Now, if trigger ticked, it will act as an object that will trigger something when we collide with it instead of. Oh, I'm going to have to make sure I don't die. Oh, there we go. It's not great if I can't play my own game. Let's see, I'll have to wait for this to go past. All right. Uh-oh. That didn't work either. A big part of understanding how to code is debugging your code. It's all very well and good to know how to implement something, but most of the time, it's all about working out what's going wrong. In this case, we're going to have a look and see, scroll up to the very top and see what the error is that causes it all. Our onTrigger enter has got a null reference, and that's because one of our variables hasn't been set up correctly. It's our player variable. We need to drag our player in. Now let's run the game. Maybe I should turn off these enemies while I test play the game just to make it easier. All right. There we go. We collected the coin, it disappeared. But our coin value hasn't changed in our UI yet because we haven't connected it up. So let's do that now. For our text value to change to say coins 1 and then coins 2 and so on, we're going to have to let our script know about that. So what kind of variable is this? Well, it's a text variable because it's a text component. So let's go to our player movement, set up a new variable. This one's going to be a public text. Whoops. And it's going to be called, let's say, coin display. Uh-oh, looks like we've still got a problem. The type or namespace text could not be found. And that's because text is a UI, part of Unity's UI system. And we don't actually have access to that by default. We're going to have to say UI.text. No, it's got to be something else. Let me see if I can work it out. Is it Unity engine.ui? There we go. So this whole thing is what we need. We can also use, this is what this is here, using a namespace. We could also, instead of what we just did there, typing in the full address of our text type variable, we could instead say that we're using Unity Engine UI. And now it sort of automatically knows to load in that library. And now we've just got our text variable here. Either one works. Now, we're going to want to change something about our text. We're going to want to change the text. Every time we increment the coin, we could change it. I'm just going to be ridiculously lazy and put it in our update frame so that every update it will check and make sure that our UI is showing the correct value of coins. So we're going to go coin display.text, and that will change the string value of this text. At the moment, the string value is coins equals 0. We want to change that to be equal to coins equal space. But we can't just hard code in a value because the value is supposed to change. So we want to add that string with our two quotations to the value of the coins that we have collected. Here it is here. Now let's save that and see what happens when we run the game. Maybe you'll be able to predict an error that will occur. We've already got the error, null reference exception. It's that same old problem. We still need to drag our text into the variable. Let's go back to player. Let's find the variable. There it is, coin display. Let's drag our text into it. Hopefully now we won't get that error anymore. Coin 0. Uh-oh, can I avoid getting killed by these orbs? And now our coins value has increased to 1. All we have left to do is add a whole bunch more coins. Maybe we should start thinking about level design and maybe duplicate this platform. And I'm duplicating these with Control D, by the way. That's an incredibly useful shortcut to have. This is like the worst level design I've ever seen in my life, but right, it's all about prototyping out functionality at the moment. Let's jump up here and see if we can grab these coins. Boop, boop, boop. I have to make my own sound effects at the moment, but something we'll be looking at soon will be adding audio to our game. So hopefully you have seen from this tutorial how just with some simple concepts that we've already been working on, we're starting to actually put together some game mechanics. It all sort of explodes once you understand the simple principles. Well, I say simple principles, more like the complex principles that underline all of coding.